Good. So today we are going to talk about clauses. Okay. I want you to tell me what do you understand for clause. What is a clause? Do you remember any idea of what is it? What is a clause? Or no? Any idea?
No.
No? Okay, so today we are going to learn about these clauses. I want you to take notes, okay? So it says, what is a clause? A clause is a group of words containing a subject and a verb, which form a sentence or part of a sentence, okay? It's similar to a sentence, but the difference is that in a sentence, we can have more than one clause, okay? For example, we have two kind of clauses. I'm going to give you then an example. We have a main clause and a subordinate clause. When we have two clauses in a sentence, or maybe we can have more, we have one main clause and one subordinate clause, or more than one subordinate clause, okay? So, for example, what is the main clause? This clause is also called independent clause, and it expresses a complete thought. So this clause can be a sentence itself. It doesn't need anything else to express a complete thought. Okay, so this main clause is complete. Okay, you can understand the meaning and you don't need anything else to understand this clause. But a subordinate clause is a dependent clause. Why? Because it doesn't have sense without the main clause. Okay, this subordinate clause gives extra information. Okay, so these are the two type of clauses we have in a sentence. Okay, and as I said before, we can have more than one clause in a sentence. I'm going to give you an example. I'll go out with my friends as soon as I finish my homework, it says. I want you to tell me how many clauses can you see in this sentence? How many clauses do you think we have here in this sentence?
Two clauses.
Two, right? Which ones? Which is the first clause?
With my friends.
Main clause. I go out with my friends.
This is the main clause, okay? It has a complete thought, right? It is complete. And the next one is I
Subordinate
I
clause.
finish my homework.
I finish my homework, right? It's a subordinate clause because it's giving extra information and it doesn't have a complete thought itself, right? So yes, this is the first one. This is the main clause and this is the subordinate clause. As you can see, this is only one sentence. And in one sentence, we can have more than one clause, okay? And here we have this expression, as soon as, and we can join two clauses with these kind of expressions, okay? As you can see, this is a clause because we have a subject and a verb, and this is also a clause because we have a subject and a verb, as we said here before, right? Containing a subject and a verb. Then we have this expression that help us to join these two clauses. And these are some of the expressions that we are going to use during this lesson, okay? We can use as soon as, once, after, before, unless, or until, okay? So these are some of the expressions that we are using in this lesson to join these two clauses in a sentence, okay? So let's see here. Here I have two sentences. I will call you as soon as I arrive. And the other one is, we are going to take the kids to the park once they have done their homework. Okay? In this sentence, I want you to tell me the tenses or the verbs that we are using. For example, in the first one, what is the verb in the first sentence?
Call.
Again, please.
Call.
Call. Okay, just call.
Arrive.
Arrive.
Will call. And also arrive. As you can see, we have two clauses. I will call you and I arrive. Okay, so here we have the main clause and the subordinate clause. And these two clauses are joined by this expression, as soon as, right? Okay, what about here in this sentence?
Are going to take.
Are going to take. In the next one?
They have done.
Yes, they have done, right? As you can see, here we have two clauses. We are going to take the kid to the park. This is the main clause, and they have done their homework. This is the subordinate clause. And as you can see, these two clauses are joined by once. Okay? So, what do you think is the rule in these two sentences? What do you think is the rule that we need to follow in these two sentences? For example, in the first one, I will call you as soon as I arrive. What do you think could be the rule in this sentence that we need to follow? Any ideas?
A verb in a future
Okay.
way. And the second one is maybe in present or past.
In the present. Okay. Yes, when we use when the main clause is in the future simple, the subordinate clause need to be in the present simple or can be in the present simple. And when we have be going to in the main clause, we can use the present perfect in the subordinate clause. So we are going to follow this rule, okay? It says, if the verb in the main clause is will or going to, the verb in the subordinate clause can be in the present simple or in the present perfect, okay? So we are going to follow this rule to make our sentences, okay? So we are going to use these two clauses, main clauses with will and going to, and subordinate clauses with present simple or present perfect. Okay? Any questions until here? So now I want you to tell me what is a clause. Tell me please, Carlos, what do you think is a clause with your own words?
Something that I don't know.
Andres, what do you think is a clause in your own words?
It's a group of words containing a subject
Just a subject?
and a verb.
Yes, it's a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. Okay? Tell me please, Andrea Loaiza, how many type of clauses do we have?
And unless.
Clauses. How many type of clauses do we have?
Two.
Two. Which ones?
Will and going to.
No. Tell me please, Natalia, how many type of clauses do we have?
Two. There are main clause and subordinate clause.
Subordinate clause. Okay, we have two type of clauses, right? The main clause and the subordinate clause. Tell me please, Orlando, what is the difference between the main clause and the subordinate clause.
Okay, the main clause express a complete thought, and the subordinate clause cannot stand alone as a complete sentence. It gives more information that complete the sentence.
Okay, what do you understand? How can you tell me this in your words, Orlando? Express a complete thought.
For example, a single sentence that I will walk my dog, for example.
Okay, it's not that clear. What about you, Bruno? How can you express this in your own words? Express a complete thought.
That it has a meaning on its own.
For example?
I arrive.
I arrive. It has a meaning?
Oh, well. Wait. No. It would be like, I will cook.
Okay, I will cook. It has a meaning, right?
Yes.
Because I arrive to where? Where do you arrive, right? Okay, yes. What other expressions we can use to join these two clauses, Franco?
As soon as, before, after, and once.
Okay. Do you have any questions, guys, about these clauses? Anything to clarify?
About the second ones, the subordinated. So those are the ones that doesn't have a meaning on its own, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And gives extra information, okay, to the main clause.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's go to the book. We are going to complete some exercises here related to clauses, okay? For example, here we have number 1, it says, match 1 to 5 to A to E. Then check your answers in the article. These sentences are from the article you read before, okay? So it says, it is a difficult habit to stop. Which of these sentences do you think we can match with this one?
I think.
Which one?
Until they are adults.
Until
I think,
they are.
once you have gotten used to.
Yes. Once you have gotten used to it, right? Es un hábito difícil de cortar una vez que te has acostumbrado a eso. Okay? Very good. Number 2. Most children want to eat fast food.
Before they have even set foot in a restaurant. They eat.
No. Yes, a ver, let's see. Most children want to eat fast food before they have even set foot in a restaurant. Okay, yes. What about number 3? This creates brand loyalty that lasts
Until they are adult.
Until they are adult, right? Number 4, you can now find fast food restaurants almost anywhere in the world. Unless
you go to very insulated place.
Yes, unless you go to very isolated places. And then here we have, as soon as you enter, you notice the bright lighting, okay? As you can see, if we write the expression at the beginning of the sentence, we need to use a comma to separate these two clauses. Okay, but if we write the expression at the end, so if we write the subordinate clause at the end, we don't need to use a comma, okay? So let's see here. Here we have some questions about the sentences you match. It says, which words in bold, in number 1, mean except if? Which of these words in bold mean except if?
Unless.
Again, please.
Unless.
Unless. What do you think, guys? Do you agree?
Teacher, what does it mean unless?
A no ser que. What do you think? Do you agree with your partner? Yes, right? Unless is a word that means except if. Okay. Number 2, earlier in time.
As soon as.
No. Earlier in time.
Before.
Before.
Before, right? Yes. I'm going to match this with some colors so we can. So we have unless. It means except if. Then we have earlier before or earlier in time for before. Up to the time. Up to the time.
The sí.
Again.
Sí.
See?
Yes.
Oh, once?
Once you've gotten used to it.
No.
Until?
Until, right? Yes. And the last one, it says when or just after. This is once.
Once.
And as soon as, both, right? Once and as soon as have almost the same meaning. Okay. So, I want you to tell me if you understand all these expressions here. As soon as, unless, once, until, or before. Do you understand all of them?
As soon as.
Tan pronto como. For example, it says, as soon as you enter, you notice the bright lighting. Tan pronto como tú entras al lugar, tú notas la luz del lugar, ¿cierto? La luz fuerte, brillante. Tan
Unless,
pronto como. Unless, a no ser que. Por ejemplo, dice, creo que la oración dice, let's see, you can now find fast food restaurants almost anywhere in the world, unless you go to a very isolated place, to very isolated places. Puedes encontrar comida rápida casi en todos lados, a no ser que vayas a un lugar muy alejado. Any other word? No? Okay. Here we have the sentences, and I want you to tell me the tenses they are used after the words in bold. What are the tenses that you can see here after the words in bold? For example, here. What is the tense here? What is the tense? ¿Qué tiempo gramatical es este?
Present.
Present.
Present simple, right? Okay. What about sentence A? What is the tense here?
Future.
You go is future.
You. No. Sorry. Sorry.
What is the tense here?
Present.
Present simple, right? You go. What about this one? Once you have gotten, what is the tense here?
Present perfect.
Present perfect, right? This is the present perfect. What about the next one? They are adults.
Present simple.
Present simple. And the last one, they have even set foot in a restaurant.
Present perfect.
Present perfect. Okay, so as you can see, it's the same rule we said before. When we have a statement, okay, a main clause with will or going to, the subordinate clause is in the present simple or in the present perfect. Okay? Si tenemos una oración con futuro o con going to, la siguiente clause, no sé, es en presente simple o present perfect, right? Let's complete here the grammar panel. Clauses, it says. A clause is part of a sentence that contains a subject and a verb, as we said before, right? We need a subject and a verb to form a clause. We can use words like to add clauses to a main clause. ¿Cuáles eran las palabras que utilizábamos? Quiero que se fijen en el ejercicio anterior. ¿Qué otras palabras utilizamos? Utilizamos after, unless, until, once,
As soon as.
as soon as.
For.
Before. Very good. For example, I will invite you over once or as soon as or after I find an apartment. Ok, te voy a invitar cuando o tan pronto como o una vez haya encuentre un departamento. Then we have the next one. It says, if the verb in the main clause is in the present simple or will or going to, we often use the ¿qué utilizamos?
Present.
Present, right? We often use the present simple. Okay, recuerden. Here we have the main clause. If the main clause is in the present simple or will or going to, we often use the present simple tense in the second clause, so in the subordinate clause. For example, I will call as soon as I find out. Okay? We can also use the, ¿qué más podemos utilizar?
Present perfect.
Perfect.
Present perfect. Okay, so we can also use the present perfect. In the second clause, this emphasizes that the action will be completed before the action in the main clause. Okay, let's continue here. For example, I'll call as soon as I have found out what's happening. Okay, I have found out what's happening. It says, sometimes the main clause comes at the end of the sentence. Okay, como les decía anteriormente, vamos a ponerla en colores. This is the subordinate clause. And this one is the main clause. Okay, As you can see, sometimes the main clause can go at the end. Okay, when the main clause goes at the end, we need a comma to add these two clauses. And of course, the expression goes at the beginning. Okay? But if the main clause is at the beginning, we don't need a comma. Okay, we can say, put it in the recycling bin as soon as you have read the newspaper. Or put the newspaper in the recycling bin as soon as you have read it. Okay? Entonces, recuerden, cuando la main clause está adelante, no necesitamos coma, y cuando va atrás, sí. Okay? Any questions until here? Let's practice a little bit.